everyone. Michelle Semenoff here. I haven't spoken to you for a while, and I'm called today to speak to you today about clearing people's houses, people's beings, our bodies, our physical properties energetically. This is something that not everyone's interested in, and fair enough. However, it's a very useful thing to do at any time. You change houses, you move from one space to another, you literally step into other people's energetic footprints. The house, like when you buy and sell a house, you clean it before you move in, you clean it when you leave. An energy clearing is a similar thing. It's just much, much deeper. You can go into, depending on who you get and their level of capability in clearing, it's something that is like anything else. The more practice and the more tools you have in your toolbox, the more effective you can be at getting into the deeper stuff, right? So when I work on a client person, whether I have them physically in my presence or I'm doing distance or remote work, a clearing is part of my healing reading process. No matter who I work with, no matter what I do, is something that happens as part of what we do together, because we live in this 3D world, right? We interact with other people, and this 3D world is more and more multidimensional. So, and I mean, it's always been multidimensional. Those of you that want to, kind of nitpick with my language, feel free. And again, always when I speak to you, take what resonates, leaves the rest. I'm speaking to those who are interested in this topic, who really aren't really sure about, how does it really work? What do you do? Right? So when I work with a person, you come to me because you've got physical pain, emotional pain, you've gone through a situation where you're just feeling like you need some help, and I offer, longer term coaching and lots of stuff. So you can always refer to my website for that. But today we're talking about clearing in particular. So like I say, it's like you come home from work for the day and you take off your shoes at the door, but energetically you've had a bad day. You got in a fuss with somebody, somebody cut you off in traffic, your emotions, your partner, says, "Hey honey, how was your day?" And you're like, "Fucking sucks." Pardon my French. Right? So you're attracting energetic mud into your home. And we can use, sage, there's lots of tools we can use to clean it at a superficial level, not unlike dusting. And not to say that sage is a superficial tool. However, any tool depends on the person using it, right? I can use a hammer and I can maybe hit that nail head once out of every 5 tries. Carpenter can use a hammer and he can pound that nail into its space with one hit, right? So it's the same with any type of tool and energetic tools as well. Sage, crystals, tarot cards, name it. Those of us that work with energy, we work with energy. And so the more practice we are, the more experience we have, the deeper clean we can do in particular. So when you have your physical body have a clearing done, you should feel lighter. It should always be noticeable. The problem people have with this type of work is if we don't change our behaviors, our interactions with other people, whatever it is, the very next day we can be all covered in crap again, because we've literally, come out all feeling good, and then we've gone and jumped right back in the mud puddle and splashed ourselves, right? And it's the same with properties and homes. I've done a lot of this, and I do it all over the world. And I had a more than one, hence part of the reason for this video, person reached back out to me and, oh, it felt so great, cleared the space. Because when I do it, I tell you what, I found. Did I find a portal? Was there actually a boogeyman in the closet, right? Were there ghosts? Were there, anything? And just so and sometimes there are things that are too much to take in. So I don't share unless, the person really wants to know some of the levels, because some things are beyond what we're capable of taking in, right? Sometimes it's just too much information. So suffice it to say, things have been cleared up, you feel great, you come home, your space feels wonderful. And then you invite in somebody who you really didn't want to come over to visit you. However, you felt, oh man, we haven't gotten together in a long time. Just we'll have them over for tea. And the conversation kind of goes sideways. And then they reach back out to me and go, Michelle, like the place felt great for a few days and now it feels almost as bad as it did before. And then I query, okay, right? What is your housekeeping bid like? Because it's energetic housekeeping, just like physical housekeeping. Are you sweeping the floor? Are you letting people walk in with muddy feet? Right? It doesn't last unless you do your maintenance. Now, again, certain things will, right? If we're closing portals or, things like that, or we're evicting beings who have less than your highest good at heart. And we're not talking about shadow, we're talking actually about evil. So this does exist. Evil exists in this world, and right now with all the transitions we're going through, they're picking up speed, right? Darkness doesn't want the light. They're like, you're irritating the crap out of me, so I'm gonna act up. So this is also, I'm assuming, because this is, I've been called to make this video. This is some channeled information that this is something that people need to know is available, that people do it. There's not many of us that do it, and there's not many of us that do it at the level that I do it and some of the people that I work with. Like I have people that if I have a situation that I'm like, oh, you know what? This is a little bit above my pay grade. I have someone I can refer you to because she does it from a different perspective and has a completely different toolkit, right? So it's like I can teach you algebra, she can teach you advanced physics, right? So just blah, blah, blah. Anyways, so it's to know that, and it's the discernment factor, right? Like, and not everyone sees everything, right? You know, if you've ever had a housekeeper or a house cleaner come in to clean your house, it's like, yeah, the floors are sparkling, but they totally miss the baseboards, right? Etc. So it's to have that level of confidence in whomever you're working with. And how do you know, right? Trust your guts. This is also always, and in particular, because energy work is becoming trendy, right? Everybody's a witch, everybody's a white witch, and all the terminologies and stuff. And it's cool to be magic. Well, of course, and we all are. Like I teach Reiki because we all have Reiki in our DNA. We all have the capacity to do all these things. We all just each have different skill sets, right? Like one person's a carpenter, one person's a painter, one person's a mathematician, right? We all have our different strengths. And this is something that, I have been doing for a long time. And I was first introduced to it many years ago. I had a badly damaged dog that I had adopted who literally was brain damaged, and we couldn't figure out what was going on with her. And at that time I was just kind of learning about a lot of these things because I had been shut down my own self. So anyways, this person came and he was absolutely amazing, and he taught me a bunch of stuff, and he spoke with her. Well, she was barking at these particular neighbors, and what she was barking at wasn't the neighbors. She was barking at the people with no legs following the neighbors around. And I was like, okay, right? And he said, well, it's the ghosts of people that have lived there before, and this family is struggling. And so these people are not like, he wasn't going to clear them out because their intentions were to help. And so that was the information that he shared with my dog that day to go, okay, yes, you are a guardian. She was a German Shepherd, right? And, watching people following people around all the time, and the people being followed being unaware that they were being followed, right, would stimulate the dog's response. And so after that, she didn't bark at him anymore. So, hello, that was kind of an introduction for me. Animals and small children see everything. So if you have a small child who is afraid to go to bed at night because there's a boogeyman in the closet, there's a boogeyman in the closet. Now that boogeyman, and this is not to scare you and go, oh God, Michelle, help me. No, this is to help us understand that we forget because we're told to forget. When we come into this world as babies and as small children, we're wide open, right? You think, puppies and babies, everything is stimulus, and they see everything. They see the auras, they see the ghosts, they see the boogeyman. And sometimes it's not a boogeyman. Sometimes it's a shadow for the parent who's not paying attention to doing their own work to work on, right? So the energy, our spirit guides, the divine, the angels, all speak to us the best that they can in the way that they can to get us to hear and understand, because they're all here to help and support us. And even the nasty, scary things sometimes can be nasty and scary because they're trying to be really big to get your attention. And so I come in, you've requested me or someone else to clear your space because you're not comfortable, right? When you sit on your couch, it feels like somebody's sitting there beside you, or, whatever it is, you're just like not comfortable in your space. And I come in and I'm like, okay, guys, what's going on, right? And, some are like, oh, just get out of here, right? Scrub, 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 go away. And I have lots of guides. I work with many multi-dimensional beings. So this isn't Michelle doing Michelle. I am the conduit, right? And I'm the person that goes, hey, right? We need some sparkles over here. We need, some freaking baseball bats over here, because this is evil, and we need to seal a portal or whatever. So I need some help from whomever. And this is practice, right? I'll take on a project, somebody will reach out and be like, oh my goodness, right? That feels really big. And I will have some anxiety about it. And so I'll check in, right? I'll go into a meditative state. I'll check in with my higher self, my guides, whomever is available to show up when I'm like, okay, looking for some help here, people. And they show up and go, yep, got your back, let's go, right? And generally what's been happening, because everything is bigger, everything is faster, everything is just magnified these days. And we did a clearing on a house, and it ended up being the property, and the reverberation of it affected the entire valley community. There was a lightness that was brought to the entire area because this particular space was so dark. There were so many nasty things that were just thriving there. That once we did evictions, and there was an ongoing protection light that needed to happen for that particular place for 30 days. So this was a particularly poignant exercise for me to go, holy moly, right? There's every time I go into something like this, I obviously geek out because I find it really fascinating, and I don't have the fear that I had back in the beginning of oh, my dog, right? What in the world is going on here? She's seeing people with no legs. Right? Okay, Michelle's finally gone Cracker Jacks. And notice the response for her. And then other things, synchronicities happen. So as I'm continuing to speak about all this stuff, just notice what's going on in your insides, right? If you're getting a little twinge of oh, that resonates, right? And again, clearings can be, excuse me, repeated. However, it's to know that this is how they work. On our own physical bodies, we can be cleaned up, cleared out, all kinds of stuff can be shifted. It's like going to the spa, totally relaxed, coming out, feeling rejuvenated, some good information on self-care moving forward. And then you go home and the whole world explodes, or you go to work the next day and things are just like, oh my goodness, right? And to know that when you get a clearing or a treatment, it takes maintenance. And we can help you with that. I'm using the we. There's a lot of wonderfully talented, magical people that do a lot of different modalities, and we're coming out of the closet, so to speak. So you have a lot of support and help available to you in this 3D place, as well as your guides. And the choosing of that, the decision making of, to come see me, to go see someone else, is in your guts. Does your chest get tight? Do you do you feel a flutter in your belly? What is your intuition telling you, when I speak different words or whatever, or, someone else says something you read online, it's like, ooh, drawn to that. Okay, so clearings, many levels, personal, property, your own space, right? You can be in a rental unit in an apartment building and we can clear your space. We cannot clear the entire apartment building because it's not yours, right? So there is universal law that comes into play in particular with this sort of thing. We can request clearing for ourselves and our children. We cannot request clearing for another adult because they are their own beings, right? So it's really important, and to consider in yourself, right, where you're headed with that intention or that request. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful. Please feel free to reach out with any questions ever. I am here to help, and I wish you all a most wonderful day. And I know there's a lot of chaos in the world, so this is one thing that we can do for ourselves, because the lighter we can be in ourselves, that's how we raise the vibration of the all in all the darkness and chaos that's happening around us. Much love. Bye for now.